Hello. Here we are. I realized that with this particular podcast that I have showed up and started talking, and I have not done much explaining of who I am. And so I thought that I would take some time to introduce myself. So, who am I? I am 36 currently years old. I have one kiddo and a partner, and we live all together with our pets. I'm originally from upstate South Carolina. I currently live in the low country of South Carolina, and I am planning a move to Seattle, Washington, which is both daunting and necessary. Like most, I don't know, complicated but good things are, I suppose. I I have worked in tech for the last more than 10 years, and that's interesting to me because never intended to I never intended to do anything, I don't believe, for 10 plus years. And here we are, and we are nearing our 10th year dating versary. My husband, partner, boothang person, guy, and I. So that's two areas of 10 years, decades. And I tend to have an easier time communicating one to many and a more difficult time with there's some kind of a block, I think, for me that I've been trying to work through around intimacy and figuring out how to have fulfilling friendships and to honestly just sort of like shake. It's not that I don't love people and want to communicate, to send text messages and make phone calls and write letters and make special presents for and make plans with and go and do things. But on the average day, I do not have the forks or the spoons, which is obnoxious. And I do understand that next you work backwards from that and you unload the dishwasher or whatever your equivalent of that is. And so I know that right now, I am on a journey of trying to legitimately do good. And I don't even know what that means exactly, but I do know that I have strong instincts and that I have a disarming ability about me at times because I'm genuine or I hope to be. So you have all that. And then you balance it though with someone who at the last minute might feel like putting pants on is, and not even in a funny way, but putting pants on is too much work, right? And it's hard to predict. So I spend a lot of time manufacturing consistency, stability, discipline, and structure for myself and for my little family, And I go through kind of unpredictable, or I'm trying to soothsay it, right? But kind of hard to predict, I think. Um, Spells where for seasons at a time, I might feel very aloof and inward seeking. And I think people throw around the phrase work life balance. And, side note, I feel very lucky with the position. I know it's not that I feel lucky. I know that I am lucky cosmically to have wonderful health insurance, and usually I eat dinner with my family and hang out, but I also see a theme emerging with me and then also with the people around me of sort of coming to fruition in a way where you can't not do what you're supposed to do. Like, you feel driven towards a future where everyone has enough, and we aren't the goal isn't to have more. The goal is to suffer less. And it's quite a different approach to everything when you compare it to a life lived with the goal of having more so you can have more in a way so that other people have less and that is somehow meaningful. I don't know exactly what that is, but I'm working on it, and I am working on listening because I guess what I'm noticing a pattern. I'm a pattern seeking person. I know that. Sometimes that can make you, you know, start seeing a pattern, and let's put it this way. I am accustomed to me sharing something that relates to what has been said in a conversation. It's fairly relevant. And then finding a connection that does not seem very direct, or it's it's too many hopscotch, hops, so you can't really follow how I got there because you even if you have part of it, right? Like, it's hard, you know what I mean? But those moments when you can relate to another human on that level are really interesting. Um you just kind of have to, like, I don't know. You kind of learn it's a playfulness, right? Like, not everyone has that. My partner has that, and I love that. And working to have, but want kiddo to have it too. But there's not enough playfulness. There's not enough. I, that's not even it. There is enough. There is enough. Yeah. So we have to act like it, right? It's interesting figuring out what that means. But if you haven't had an experience like this yet, you will. And the experience I mean is where you have a moment of choice, your spark that is you, that has an opportunity to affect the universe. You have that moment, you make that choice. That's your contribution. So when you make a choice that perhaps you were tempted by things like, it doesn't matter, or I don't know, I feel like there are various different kinds of sarcastic, sardonic, pessimistic, and on sort of potholes along the way that I have personally experienced. Like how simple things were when for a good, year or something, I felt like, you know what, closest fit to what I think is atheism. Like, prove it, like that kind of a thing. Like, I don't have to prove a negative, like, kind of the worst. Oh, and it's kind of funny now looking back because in that period of time, I think I also had the most sort of strange, slippery phantasma. What is it? Phantasmagora. I don't know. I'm gonna have phantasmagoria. I have to look this up. Uh, but just like a slippery nature to it, right? So that's a little bit about me. That is who I am. What do I like to do? I am on a journey to make sure that I am living the life that I want to have and the life that I want to create for my kiddo. That's really important to me and my partner and our family and our pets and on and on and on, and do more good while I'm at it is really the goal. And feeling compelled to start making videos and contributing to creator culture feels really strange because I have been with I don't even know. It's almost like abstaining in a way because I have been afraid of being seen or known. And the fact of the matter is that moments that have felt the most fundamentally me, when I have been most aligned, balanced, and resonating with with balance, those moments also I tend to connect with the types of people who will understand. And I think anyone can understand, but it's like the people who are willing to be playful and not expect anything that isn't explicitly sort of discussed. I did not enjoy the the psychological chess of navigating love and relationships and all that stuff. Like all that whole category was very confusing to me, and there's like there's a fervor to it when you're, especially for in my experience, like when you're in your teens and your 20s, there's a fervor, there's an intensity to you needing validation that sort of like, you ever felt an emotion so strongly that you feel like you can hear your heartbeat in your ears, and it's like almost like everything is so just swelling and like pressing it, like a very claustrophobic feeling. And maybe you hear like a ringing, or you don't hear, like everything just kind of goes like wing, like stage silence right before the curtain goes up. Those kinds of moments. So one thing that I did want to talk about is that a few years ago, I started to go to Twitch, right? I would log in. I had a few friends that were on there in some capacity. Didn't altogether understand what it was. I remember being very confused by like, why would you need to subscribe and give bits? Like what? Like what a, what a racket kind of a thing. And it didn't click to me that it was a place for developing creative minds. And I understand that that is not the primary, I don't have metrics on it, right? But the primary thing that you see, the primary type of stream you see are, I'm sitting here and I'm playing a game, and that's perfectly cool. Like I have had some great laughs to streams like that. But I found this little corner of Twitch where people were really, really funny and dark and smart and witty, and then also like super caring. And not everybody, right? But for a streaming community, for any community that is built around a focal point, I think that some law of attraction happens in that, where as a creator, as a streamer, you're setting out your intentions, you have this plan, and oftentimes it's like best laid plans of mice and men. We had such a great plan, and you might be pleased with how it turned out, or you might be stressing, you know? You might be feeling like that was not how we wanted that to go. And you don't know. And it starts, once it's happening. And, you know, you could have hundreds, thousands of people there typing and sort of creating like this little ball of energy. So the communities are forming around creators, which isn't new, but it's interesting to have watched it real time over the past few years. And I when I first started to participate in Twitch at all, I really did feel like it was not for me, even though I have spent way too much time in my life playing World of Warcraft and mostly a lot of Civ 5. That was and is my jam. You know, I have games that I like. I love driving games. Anything where I can make it drift around a corner is so fun. Yeah, those kinds of things are super fun. But the corner of Twitch that I found, I think it really it's okay, here's the deal. It started with the whitest kids you know. This was It was very close to the time that Trevor passed away. It was like months, right? Like before. And that was strange because I had not thought about the whitest kids you know in years. I had at one point purchased the Civil War on Drugs on Amazon on Prime Video to have a copy because you couldn't always find it other places, you know? And so I know I had that somewhere, but I just like didn't remember that I had it. And I remember showing it to my partner as sort of a like, this is really funny kind of a thing. And it's just, yeah. And then from there, revisiting old sketches, and the ones that are funny are so funny. The Saturday skit kills me every single time. When he shoots when Trevor is like, "Let me shoot this arrow into the hood of this car." And this lady is like, "No, like not this shit again." Oh, it's so funny. It's so funny. So anyway, that was it. And then I really loved when they did a Dungeons and Dragons like a just like a whatchamacallit, uh what's the word? It's not like conquest. It's not expedition. I'm gonna look it up because that's gonna bug me. Doody doody doo, Dungeon Dragons. Uh 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 let's see. Expeditions? Campaigns. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. So they did a campaign, and it was some of the funniest stuff that I have ever heard in my life. And then also, I watched Trevor's 24-hour talk show, which was so fucking funny. It was ridiculous, right? Like, I remember binging it in a way that I had not binged some kind of like visual media in a while. And so that's what really got me coming to Twitch regularly. And then once Trevor passed away, that community really came together, and it was very, difficult to have such a collection of grief, as things were happening, and also to be sort of like not involved in it at all, but also participating. It was kind of strange and beautiful. And there were these little just moments of tenderness and genuine love between those guys. And it was really beautiful to see that and to sort of be there in it. And really, the rest that happened from there has been a series of, raids. Raids have been so successful in getting me to places that also capture my interest. So, the Whitest Kids You Know raided into the Fantastic Plastics. That was my introduction to them. They're amazing, and they have music that you can listen to anywhere that you stream your music, the Fantastic Plastics. And they also do live streams, which are a visual treat. It's beautiful. You can tell they work so hard. It's I believe a husband and a wife, and Miranda, the wife, she plays the theremin. They each are so, so very talented and use a combination of instruments to and write songs and then perform, and it's really cool. They do a lot of Devo covers, which is really cute. So, booty boo, I go on, I'm coming in there kind of frequently, and then I have a day where the Fantastic Plastics rated Harry Horror Show. And Harry Horror Show is an incredible Twitch streamer who prepares lectures that you wish you had in college, and that you also, whenever you are trying to understand something, it's the kind of information that you want and you need to help you really understand. Harry is very much focused on details and and not in a it's a slog kind of a way, in a way where not only is he presenting information, not only is he weaving in primary sources and really sort of making the most of your time, right? Like, he is taking time to synthesize information in such a way that is presented in an entertaining manner, and that it's factual, which is a really difficult layer to put on top of it. And that was my introduction to true crime on Twitch. And it was fortuitous timing. I think it's around the same time that I became bored with my standard podcast deck that I had been working with. And by that I mean I would listen to my favorite murder on the dot, and I have no, negative feelings towards them. It's just like a matter it's all vibes, you know what I mean? Like, when am I listening to podcasts? Well, I might be doing something else. I might be looking for some kind of intellectual or emotional or whatever, interaction and stimulation. Like, it can be a lot of things. And not this is not to say that I don't listen to true crime stuff, because I do, but I don't know. I wish them the very best. There were for example, I've seen them in person a few times, and they didn't mean to, but they phoned it in Charleston, South Carolina, with it was Georgia's story about the jail and the dungeon, which this is so stupid, but it's like, as a local, was really boring to me. You know, it seemed like tourists information, and I don't think that's the vibe that they're going after. So I was just very disappointed by that. And but it wasn't like a disagreeable kind of thing. It's more like I moved more in the direction of conversations and interview type content. Conan's podcast, uh anything. For a while I was listening to the Inside Coco ones. That was another one where I was like, I just like, this is interesting, but I sort of don't care right now. I sort of would rather go listen to, Dana Carvey and David Spade on their Fly on the Wall podcast. That's a really good one. I listened to Smartless for a while, and it was sort of like I don't know, it was just like a shift, right? And as it stands right now, I'm Duncan Trussell is my favorite podcast at the moment, and I do still listen, but it's very much to other series, but it's very much it very much leans on sort of what kind of like how much brain power do I have to give to it? Like, if it's going to be something that's dense and not restorative, I've been trying to make good choices in that regard, and at the same time certain combinations will always get, like Tig Notaro, I will listen to anything that she's on. And I was very much into Tig and Cheryl's True Story. That was my favorite for a while. And so it's been interesting to I mean, it's like a podcast series is a lot like a I don't know, like a TV show in a way, where you're sort of like, all right, like, how many more episodes will we get? And will they, come in for a new season, or like, will they just like just say nope? And I don't know what my hair is doing. I did not blow dry it, so it got like very fluffy today, which is my fault. My fault. But I do like how PC that it's getting. It's like the mullet is really coming in. Look at that. 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 Yeah. And one night, Harry Horror Show raided into Bad Blando, and I remember I had such ambivalent and conflicted feelings at first. And this, I think, is when I started to feel like, and it's just like the combination of things. Like, I had to really expand my perception a little bit, because I would laugh my ass off, and sometimes, like, I'd be like, why is this like 20 something year old kid, like much younger than me, is just in a room talking. But there were these moments of heart, of like true genuine concern, and he would effortlessly he would go from being an absolute guffoon. Is that a word? I don't know. I hope it's not anything insensitive, other than being like a goofball, a goober. Like, I was like, why am I like, I could be watching, and I could be playing Civ 5 right now. Like, why am I doing this? And why is it fun? And so it was really easy for me to be like, I'm a 36-year-old, like, married white lady mom person, sort of like, what am I doing? Spending my evenings. Oh my God, I should be doing more things in the real world, in the real world, in the real world. It sounds like that guy. He's like, in a real world. That's see like that. Like that is so funny. The ability to do impersonations really swiftly is something that Bad Blando's very good with. And yeah, I wasn't coming in there every single day at first, but then increasingly, it would be like, all right, well, Spooky Sunday, love it. True crime on Tuesday. Let's freaking go. And then like there was some I don't know. It was a combination. So like the ritual sort of became listening to Harry Horror Show, and then usually Bad Blando would be on after that. And in the process of listening to those two programs, discovered several other streamers who were doing really cool stuff and innovative things, and overlapping communities. And it would be like people who they observe similar things to you, or they make jokes that make you laugh, and if it were I just realized that Cartman is behind me. Oh my god. Yeah, and don't forget to subscribe. Need you to subscribe. Yeah. So, and then discovered many other wonderful streamers like Floppy Jimmy and Blizzbear and the GP girls, and on and on and on and on and on and on. And I think that particularly it was an important moment for me because when this was happening sort of coincided with when I started to become, I don't know, like a little bit more okay with going out into the world. And so then there was also after the pandemic, of course, and then because of that there was a pressure to like do all the things that you didn't get to do. Go to the pool, go eat some food, go see your friends, go do some cartwheels, go wherever you want to go on vacation, go travel, and on and on and on. But where's that pressure coming from, And so in reality, I would spend my day working and usually not meaning to, right? But it's it's easy for me to get locked in on the tasks that I want to get done. Sort of like I might have a day and a half where I'm just sort of like fighting my brain to cooperate with doing the things that I need to do, and it's very annoying. And then there will be a click into place. I am able to sort of flow. I can usually note it even by how, like, let's say I go to make some coffee, and if every step sucks, then I'm not having a flow kind of day. And I sort of crave it as the natural way of things, like just flowing and, be firm when it's warranted. But the other side of that is let it flow the rest of the time, right? And yeah, that's a long-winded way to kind of document and share how participating in Twitch communities and Twitch streams became one of my primary enjoyed evening activities with my precious coveted me time, right? Like the time where no one is hungry, no one is needing me to, do a thing that gives them the info that they need to do their thing. Like I'm not the boulder in anybody's way, right? Like I'm not letting anybody down, that kind of a feeling. So I I've really come to terms with enjoying Twitch as like I feel I mean, okay, to take a step back. Something like Twitch exists and it once things exist and other people are able to interact and contribute and on and on and on, things begin to sort of take their own shape, right? Like Justin TV, maybe there were aspirations of Twitch doing X, Y, and Z, but you don't know for sure in the moment, right? When you're just like setting out and launching something and starting something. And so I think that people are often I don't know, I'm trying to pinpoint it. It's like it is less discomforting for you to keep your understandings the same than it is to change them and to better reflect current reality. Like, I feel like there is a lag time between the here and now, between the present, and with the decisions that we are making. It's like if you've ever thrown a ball a really long distance or like shot a gun or a projectile, and if you're high up, like if you're standing on top of a hill and you want to shoot a target that's like really, let's say 500, I don't know, whatever. It's down a hill, right? It's a substantial hill, right? And if you try to um hit that target, of course you have to account for the wind, but you also have to account like you end up like accounting for the angle. Like there's a math there that happens. I feel like I feel like I do it, and I feel like everyone around me kind of like can do it, that it is a mode of existing where you're making the decisions for a time that is no longer here. And if you are trying to recreate a past time, you are so 2000 and late that it's ridiculous. And then comes into focus how do you launch your arrow, what you want to bring forward into the present? How do you get enough ahead? Like, how do you capture that reaction time, right? Like, or how do you reclaim it? And it really does feel like collective consciousness in a lot of ways is the unity of our individual wills and our individual senses of who we are, what we want, what this and that means, which is a really fun human layer to add on top of it all. And it's one of the big scams. If you can be working your ass off, but if what you're working your ass off isn't going to be ready to serve you when the time is right, when the conveyor belt is picking up the little pieces to take to the next thing and to generate that, then you are extinguishing yourself, and you are maybe not meaning to, but perpetuating hustle struggle culture where there is valor in extinguishing yourself as a maybe you would rather not to be extinguished, but you feel sated that you did everything that you could, right? And it's easy to look at the situation in front of you and to be constantly playing catch up. That's why being poor is so stressful, because there is a it's like when you think about Burning Man, or you think about any like festival type culture and people coming together, and well, I think glamping is a better parallel to this. It's like, oh my god, I love to go camping, I love to go, like, you have that, and then you when you are actually when you're actually poor, like, van life isn't that fun, you know? Toyota, no, wait, Chevy Nova life, not that fun. Not that fun. 1986 Chevy Nova? Nope, not that cute. And there are lots of angles to that, of having homes but not feeling safe to go to it. I mean, at the end of the day, the issue is that, like, as a society, it feels like no one is getting enough sleep. No one feels good about their nutrition. They're constantly like, "Oh, like, time to do better tomorrow." And there are people making great strides, great efforts, and so on and so forth. But it's like, when your life is a commute, a job, if you have kids, all that assorted, you know, um, coordinating as well as transporting those kinds of activities, and sort of like, if you lose your footing on a treadmill and you fall down, the treadmill, I mean, if you wear the clip, it might actually stop. But in general, it keeps pushing you, right? And so then it's like, when you're trying to get ahead like just an inch, you're just like you're crawling up that treadmill. You're get me up the treadmill. You're like, let me up the treadmill. No, hopefully it's not that uh intense or interesting. Yeah, this is usually about the part of the hair being in on my head after being washed, where I start doing a little flipperoo. I'm getting a live flipperoo right now. There we go. Wow. Yeah, I go through sort of like, sometimes the sensory need is to have the hair sort of like warm and cozy, and then other times I'm just like, get it out of here. I don't touch me. So I hope that was entertaining, at least, and maybe if you didn't understand why people would spend time on Twitch, that it would help elaborate. The corner where I enjoy Twitch the most, it's it's people pulling together communities, it's community building. And from those communities, you see people getting engaged, moving in together, getting married. But the more common thing, like, that's really sweet, that not to be diminished whatsoever. But when a community member has a real life experience and you're able to, in some small way, connect with them, you know? Like, you have these real human to human experiences. It's interesting how being able to communicate through typing or texting, depending on how you're accessing it, and watching and reacting to the same thing is yeah, it's a very it sates the social needs. And it sates the social needs without needing to necessarily leave your house, leave your bed. You could lay down with one little eye and just watching Twitch. Nah. You can do it. You can wake up every morning looking for your earbud. You can do it. Just kidding. But the last Twitch community I wanted to talk about is a newer community, and that community is cartoon therapy. So I, again, it was a raid, it was a casual introduction. Really, what brought me there was a person who I see frequently in other excellent communities, Sweet Blood. I noticed that she was very much like she was like excited about this stream. She believed in it. She was like, mod me, like send me in, coach kind of energy. And her opinion, like I have a lot of respect for it, right? Like we have similar interest and understanding. And so I started to check out this little stream and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And essentially the premise was you have a streamer who is an animator and is studying to become a therapist, or is, like actively in training to be a therapist. So you have these two interesting combinations. All right. Then you layer on top of that a total wild card goofball of a person, the streamer, the streamer himself. And then from there, you have this sort of like library that develops of hysterical animations that some are a split second and then some are 10 minutes, or longer. And there is a whole universe of characters. And as chat, you can use your bits or your channel points, which are free. You just accrue those by being in a Twitch channel, and, being a viewer, basically. You have chances to start changing where the streamer is, what they're doing, and I have seen that especially when this started like 6 months ago. There were other people doing stuff of that nature for sure, but the combination of the animation skill was like cartoon therapy had to sort of learn the streamer side of it, right? Like how do I do my tech, shit to get this to do this? But he has the ideas, right? Like I I was listening to someone earlier say that they had like a list of 1,000 ideas for something, and I was like, I got a lot of ideas. I don't have 1,000 ideas, but like, and not even ideas. But in addition to ideas on cartoon therapy, you'll see things develop real time, like lore develops real time, and increasingly the streams, like there's just a governing lore that is really awesome. And it's a series of animated characters who have names and personalities and silly voices, and in addition there are silly bits interspersed, um somehow nimbly. Again, this I think that feel like Harry Horror Show and Bad Blando especially have also done this, where you sort of like you're a storyteller, but you're also a very present entertainer. So there's a bunch of planning and work that happens that in the best case scenario, the community, the viewers don't know about, right? Like there's a production aspect to it. There's that. And then there's a real-time presence that you have to bring to it to strike this kind of chord and to be noticing when just noticing things, right? Like your chat, maybe there's someone in that chat who says something about their day, and then, you know, it might be like it might be a really sad thing, or in the case of cartoon therapy, there is and previously has been an anonymous form and some big buckets of bummer in that guy, you know? And on the other hand, you know, you have moments where someone maybe like submitted on the anonymous form, and then they were like, during the stream, they're like, no, I feel like talking about it. And then they talked about it, and then they got a lot of support. And at the very least, the community acts as a reminder to don't get, you know, gaslit and turned into the doormat that it's so easy to get turned into or to allow yourself to become. It's really empowering, you know? And yeah, for cartoon therapy in particular, watching the development go from having a few, you know, sound alerts, having a few this and that, and so to the point where the community gets to, at the end usually of like a season, like of time, like at the end of Christmas, for example, the holiday season, the chat gets to choose one or two of the animations that get to stay. And so you have some power on it. And as a community member, that's super interesting. And again, it's like shared across Bad Blando and cartoon therapy is an ability to go from laughing at something stupid, laughing at something ridiculous. Now there's like a man falling out of a chair. Now, you know, cartoon therapy is crawling across the deck, not the desk, across the deck, looking like a gecko. Like, and as a way of showing, there's a playfulness to how you show support by way of each of them creating opportunities to do that by way of the alerts and other things that chat can trigger. Yeah. And it's interesting, but I have come to peace with it. I think like there was something there when I first started watching Twitch streams where I was like, I don't know if you ever have that moment where like a member of your family walks up and they see what you're watching and you're like, oh god, like, you know, it's like the one time that this dumb thing was happening. Like it's not all that, you know what I mean? I've had those moments more so with the Bad Blando stream than with cartoon therapy. I do know that like from an outside perspective that, you know, maybe you don't want to hear somebody yelling at 3 p.m. Eastern. And I, you know, I wear headphones. And if I need to multitask or something, then, you know, exercise the vote of the volume button. But yeah, there are moments, right, where there is an element of chaos, but it's kind, right? Like there's the undertone for each of those streamers is a kindness and a genuine concern for the communities, which I think is in part what is attracting the kinds of people who end up sticking around. I mean, we have folks from all over in each of those two communities that those are the two communities that I know best and most thoroughly. And honestly, like, what it reminds me of something I thought that I probably wouldn't get to experience again. And that's when I was, 11, 12, that kind of age. And we got internet in our house we got a computer and we got dial-up internet. And it was a big deal to me. It was a real big deal to me because I was so bored. I was so fucking bored. And from there, it was such early days of the internet. Like, yeah, sure, there were moderators, but it was very manual and very much a wild, wild west to some degree. And I would go into the AOL chat rooms and I would just talk to people. And it got to the point where I became a regular in a chat room. And that chat room was called, don't judge me, I love you, Jesus. The chat room was called Jesus Sucks. And this again, it coincide. I know some of you are like, oh, and I cringed too, but it was like this was that time of my life where it was like atheism, like I either know everything or I will find out. Like I will know. I will know it. Like I won't give up until I know it. Sort of a feeling, and like I won't be wrong. I'll be right because I've done so much research and so much preparation. um and I suppose some of that was an extenuation of skills that I had acquired in high school, because at that time my community really was the speech and debate team, and I loved that, right? I loved it so much. I did Lincoln Douglas debate, which is moral debate, and every argument you write has to be grounded in a philosophical element. Like basically, like what is your rhetoric and what is your argument, what backs it up, and also a bit of like, this is right because of this, and then this person, it's persuasive writing, and then like oratory, right? Oratory, I guess, is really what I was interested in, because I would do oratorical competitions and won some scholarships from doing that. And then I went on from there. That's high school, right? And then in college, I did a lot of radio DJ work, not work, radio DJ, which was super fun and took many different forms, even though this was, approaching 20 years ago. The funding and the situation in some of the music stations was pretty rough. I know it's gotten rougher in a lot of instances. So that was that was a cool community. I really did vibe a lot with the English majors community at Clemson, and it was really fun being there and being the weird arty humanity kind of kid or like in that group, when the average, the kind of running joke is like, there's the turf grass major over there, like agriculture and whatever and engineering, and then you had like the little humanities building. So there was a kind of radical revolutionary aspect to it, and I think still is, judging by the wonderful people who are fighting that good fight. Some very dear people doing that. But that AOL chat room and that era of my life, for the first time, it did not matter where I physically was. I was not limited physically by the interactions and connections, the interactions I could have, the connections that I could make. And I could, park the fact that everybody could be lying, because there's that, but you could talk to people from all over the place, and you also had an opportunity to have interactions, right? Like it truly did feel like a virtual airport or something, where you'd be like, "Hey, do I know you?" Or you'd see someone reading a book that you like, you'd be like, "Oh my god, I love that book." Um, like that, right? And so I think that was so powerful because it reduced this intense alienation that I felt. And I don't know where it came from, except that I was I was often bored at school, but I could usually get done with the work, and that's when I would get bored, and then usually I could convince the teacher to let me draw or let me read. And then that way I would be able to, you know, sit still, like not fall asleep. It's really boring when you understand and you know, you're getting the explanation over and over again. And yeah, my until then my world was pretty damn small, and I like had left the state of South Carolina, I think twice, and I had probably left my hometown itself maybe a dozen times. So, that's life in 40 square miles, which is big, but not when you think about how big the world is. And I felt and do still feel this need to, I don't know, to just be able to go out and connect, and not to be limited by where I am right now. Like motility, those kinds of things are important to me. And being in a subversive chat room in, 2002, 2001, whatever it was, that really changed my life. And I had been operating under the assumption that that was gone. That was a really brief window when that could happen. But like, where do you go to meet random friends on the internet? Like, where are you going? Like, are you finding friends on Instagram or Pinterest? They damn near shut down Tumblr. Reddit is a mess. I love you, Reddit, but it's been a little messy. And, I I had not gone to those places seeking friendship. And I didn't go to Twitch seeking friendship, but I did go to Twitch in my own way, looking for some like social experience without having to deal with the physical aspect of it. And I think that that does connect with feeling like uh a sort of, I don't know, there's so many people who will play a really long game just to get what they want from you. And the physical is very intimate. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it exactly. Like, yeah, I know, like I was just thinking like through gaming and like any area that's got a message board or whatever, like a place where information is aggregated and individuals can bring information. Like, there's the possibility, but it really got, like it really got pretty difficult to just sort of meet friends, and especially as I have focused on reducing using scrolling social media as a way to fill that bucket. Ironically, by using social media less, I feel like I've gotten less I am less on top of and understanding of people I know in real life and care about real life, but people who live near me and I care about and have lives and, we could be doing things. Like, I feel like I know less about them, and I feel like um the less participation from me also means that they know less about me. But I don't think the replacement is to lean back into participating on social media. I think I had been doing that. I think the pandemic especially brought me to a feeling of like, well, if this is the connection we get, this is what we get. And it is, at least for me, it's very unfulfilling. Um but yeah, I think something similar is happening with creators building intentional communities and using the position that they're in, where they have the ear of people, to do good with it and to not let, to not let BS continue, to call out BS when it happens. And there's a feeling of safety knowing that that is the case. But yeah, those are some just connections that I've made over the course of the last little while, and trying to understand why I enjoy watching Twitch, why I like, what is the familiar part of that I had been feeling, and then I figuring out that it kind of connected back to that time for me when I was first able to connect outside of my tiny little bubble, has been really interesting. And I think it's easy to go overboard, right, with any kind of methodology or any kind of form of communication. I don't think that Twitch is a replacement for all interactions, but I do think that it is it is net good to the world and to society that you have people who are streaming and are willing to take a moment to wish someone well who might have been having a really hard day, to make someone laugh, to just to put some care and concern and thoughtfulness and introspection and all these things, like, to share it, right? And to risk you looking like a fool or whatever in order to have this experience where other people will feel less alone because of your vulnerability and because of your willingness to be vocal and to share. And there's no guarantee where people will find that. And increasingly, as folks get kind of nestled into your ways, like as you get into your 30s and up, there it seems to be a trend where you're just like, it takes more and more to get you out of your house. You're like, I just want to be in this house. Like, I work all the time just to be in this house and to like be safe and chill and have delicious snacks and all that jazz. And with that comes isolation, and isolation leads to a lot of really nasty, awful things out there. So if you think that if you came into this thinking that, Twitch was for for like watching women in hot tubs, it can be if you want it to be. or watching someone play Call of Duty. It can be if you want it to be. Um, but it is what you make of it, right? And so if you are interested in true crime, or you have a dark sense of humor, or you just like want to laugh, um I feel like you would know pretty quickly if it's your cup of tea or not. You should check out Bad Blando on Fridays. It is traditional in the Bad Blando sphere to watch body cams. And so it's like having a house party with a bunch of hilarious people and watching, sometimes it's kind of, we as a rule, in the Bad Blando sphere, Tuesdays tend to be more of the heavier crime, and then Friday is when we do the body cams, which are usually make you laugh so hard, and it's like there's no guarantee setting out that it would be like that. But man, there are some Karens and some characters. There's only been like one stream that I can recall where the it just so happened that like everybody in the body cams was just like whining, and it was like, it wasn't that it was not enjoyable, but it was like, like made you be like, wow, people are annoying. Usually that might be part of the takeaway, but then like you'll have a guy who is just in a shed. They're like, get out of there. Like, what is happening? Like, the cops have to deal with some zany shit, and sometimes you do see them doing things that you're like, oh my god, like I wouldn't do that, or I'd like to think I wouldn't. But on the other hand, you have like them dealing with the most ridiculous human beings, like the guy who drives through the traffic signal, and the whole like fucking pole is like on his car, and he's like looking out the window at the cop. The cop's like, turn off your car, and he's like, huh? And he's like rolling forward in his car with the traffic light on the top, like, oh my god. And if you want to see some cartoon therapy, you got to check out that stream Tuesdays and Thursdays, and sometimes on Fridays and sometimes on Saturdays. But Tuesday and Thursdays are the safe bet. Cartoon therapy will also have you laughing so much. The You never know which animations are going to you never know. You just never know which animations are going to be there, like what's gonna happen. Will there be a puppet? Will we be choosing which cute little cartoon character to kick off the island? Will we be watching 80% of a documentary on the Olsen twins and then realize it's the wrong documentary? Will we be doing that? Will we be doing that again? That kind of thing. No, that only happened one time. But as on cartoon therapy, the concepts are evolving, and it's getting to a place of being interactive that is really, really fun and really, really interesting. Like it's sort of like when it's like you learn without someone being like, now let's learn. You learn from the insights that get shared and the stories that get shared from the community members, and then also through the content, and it's very balanced in the presentation is very balanced, right? Between silly and absolute chaos, which is, I know, like that's some what's it called, jumbo shrimp, it's some oxymoron. happening, I realize. It's all juxtaposition, baby. So yeah, I really appreciate you listening. I did also want to say that on the Bad Blando stream, there is a concept that he's doing, and it's called $100 Brian. It's called $200 Brian. It's called 10 pesos Brians. It's called 100 rupees Braj. But what it is it's a Jeopardy game, and there are 3 participants like on Jeopardy. There are questions, there are categories, and you are able to win real money. Some of the episodes will have just streamers, and tonight, Bad Blando had the first stream that had viewers, and I was so excited. I got to be on there. I did not ultimately win. I had some mind blank moments because, I couldn't remember Randy Jackson's last name. Happens to the best of us. But it's awesome. This is the second time that he's done this concept stream. Before it was $100 Brian, now it's $200 Brian. It's going to be $300 Brian, $400 Brian, 1,000 pesos Brians. I'm just going to keep saying that. But yeah, it was the second time, and the how do you say, the coordination, the seamlessness, like the attention to detail, pulling it all together, all the scenes, like, God, it's so much work, and it's tedious work, and it's the kind of work where you start doing it and then, like, you don't have one dumb chord you need, or you're like, okay, like, this will connect here, but input, output, like, you are trying to sort of finagle together what you've got to work to do what you want it to do. And in this instance, it could be three contestants who are in 3 different places, a host, so that's now a 4th person that's in a different place, and then behind the scenes people to do the work too, and to just, keep things moving along. And then you have the streamer running a legitimate game show with game show banter, and with that, it's like, okay, you can have a game show host, and you can have a game show host who has a button that'll go boom, like you can have a soundboard. Like, imagine if Alex Trebek had a soundboard. Gosh, that would be so good. Oh, so yeah, I gotta go to bed. I didn't win, but I had so much fun, and I hope I get a chance to participate again. Congrats to Aspen Drip, who did win. Well played. And he was so sweet about it. He came into it so humble and like I'm nervous kind of a thing, and then was like kicking ass and knowing stuff. Yeah, there were several times where I was like, please get it wrong, because I wanted to steal, and then it was like, nope. I got it. I got that one. So well played. It was super fun. And he was the youngest of the contestants, so that's pretty impressive. All right. Thank you for listening. I hope that this gives you something to think about and provides some understanding, and maybe encourages you to stop and to kind of look at your precious limited free time. What are you doing with it? Who are you doing it with? If you are not happy, what can you change? What little thing can you change? I think that a commitment to change has preserved a lot of my mental health in many ways, because if you are focused on preventing resisting change, you're constantly disappointed. Constantly, constantly, constantly. It's part of the flow. There are going to be changes. But the upside is you can make them too. You can't, you know, it may take time and effort. It might be annoying. It might take multiple times, which is extra annoying. But you keep at it. Pitter patter, as they say on Letterkenny. So I hope this gives you a little bit of perspective and makes you feel like you're the main character of your life. So be the main character. Make choices. Make choices that are well informed, that feel instinctually, they feel like the right direction for you, and walk towards that. Why not? Like, what are we so attached to? Are we attached to a future where every day you watch reruns of the same sitcom and fall asleep and then wake up and then take a shower and eat your breakfast and then go to this and go to that and go to the store and fold your laundry and, then watch some more of your dumb show again? On Twitch and in places where you have creators making communities and actually not just wanting to be surrounded by adoration, but putting in the work and having the work and the effort and the person who's doing the thing, all of it kind of together, be the reason that people are gathered. And then in that gathering, for those people to find connections with one another that may simply be virtual and solving some, social deficit that you're feeling, but it is valid because it is real. It is as real as anything else can be. If you're an asshole on Twitch, I have news. You're an asshole. You probably knew that and you probably didn't care because you're an asshole, right? Micro macro, baby. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Metaphysical-ish. Thank you so much for tuning in, however you are tuning in. Thank you for listening. If you're listening audio only, remember you can also check me out on YouTube if you do want a visual, if you like non-binary people who don't make a lot of eye contact but try to every now and then by looking at the camera. Guys, this is what it's like to talk to me in real life too. Yeah, it's real. I will look in your eyeballs, but if you want me to think and construct any information, I will look like this, or I even, like, you may notice sometimes I will close my eyes, and that helps me grasp my thought that is flittering away like a black-capped chickadee on a crepe myrtle branch. Thank you for listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There's so much more to come, lining up interviews and different concepts for content that I want to help bring into the world, and topics that I want to discuss and trip over and try to understand. And yeah, I just appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for listening. And, first of all, you are loved. You're a piece of shit. I'm just kidding. That was not funny. You're a piece of beef jerky, and your mother loves you. That wasn't right. That wasn't right. Be good to you. Don't go without. And by that I mean drink some water. Eat a vegetable. Oh, I don't like vegetables. Go buy some fucking Dr. Prager's sweet potato littles at Target. Get you some. Eat an apple. If you're hungry, reach out. Reach out for help. Or get a big black trash bag and come on over. You can fill up that bag of food anytime at Mom Boy's house. That's my house. Although right now, maybe wait till I go shopping this weekend, but you're still welcome to come over. I'll make you a little pot pie. You can thaw an Uncrustable, have a little Lunchable. All right, take care. See you next time.